So this is very important for the models that I'll be handing out in the description. It's relevant to the Homeworld models. This is the hyperspace effect, right? So it's driven by a mesh, just a basic plane with a texture on it that's bound to this empty called the gate 2, and this rift gradient which drives the noise here, responsible for that kind of phasing effect. You don't want to mess with the mesh of the gate itself too much because there's scaling going on. The scales are animated, and also the transparency on it is also animated. So whenever you select it, you want to make sure that you're moving entire keyframes. And you want to move them as a group with the bounding box selected as well, because that is animated. So if you're going to change how it arrives, if you change when it appears, you want to click this, shift click that, then just kind of box select both of them. And you don't have to worry about this rift gradient because it's driven by a constraint. So whenever the rift gate moves, at least the bounding box for it does, it will move by default because it's being told to do so. Ships will be at different sizes, so you want like the gate to be at different sizes as well. Sometimes you don't want to go to a certain scale that's like insane. So if the ship is bigger, you scale this gate as needed, but you don't make it super big where it has to like encompass the whole thing. Now it's time for the example. So when you got a small ship like that, yeah, you're definitely going to rescale this. So let's scale it down about here. I think that looks about right. And if you need to, you can reposition it up. Yeah, you notice how it goes way too far away? You can just hover over to this part here, move it back, and hit location. Now one of the things you don't want is to have it too close, because when you have it too close, the effects will show up. So let me grab the hull exterior, copy this, put it onto the assault frigate, just so you can get an idea. Change that to alpha clip. Change that to alpha clip. Now if we move it back, you'll notice it starts to show up on the hull. You don't want it like that. So you want it far away, just far enough away that like those effects won't show up. Like if you see it even just a little bit, you want to move it like a further increment away. You want it to have like a good distance away. Like you can stick your hand between there almost. You keyframe that. Yeah, and that's not right either. You want to move that backwards here. Hit location. Now since this doesn't have too many greebles, little attachments or whatever, you can duplicate it, and the duplicate gets rid of all of its stuff. Set it to gate interior. Then you wanna, we don't need the armature on it, I don't believe. And then you can set the deform, the displace, mid-level to 0, strength to a negative value. It'll probably need some tweaking here and there if you notice little issues on the exterior, but should be fine, so we can just apply that. Now next time when it shows up, that's more or less what you want. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that when you bring the hyperspace gate in, and you change these keyframes, you want to duplicate them, Shift D, move the mouse over here, move the cursor here, press like S, -1, hit enter, then overlap these to the best of your ability. So that way when it plays back, it's the same distance. The purpose of the spacing on start and end is because of how sound would play at the time if you're editing the hyperspace sound in. In the method I've shown you, you apply to basically everything. Like everything. You click on hyperspace 3 node group, you copy that, and you paste it into the engine, like the engine part of the ship. You set the blend mode to alpha clip, send the shadow mode to alpha clip. You do the same for the guns and the team badge and everything. Yeah. One of the things you've probably noticed is that it has an interior, right? Whenever you append the hyperspace base into a scene to use it on a ship, what you're really after is the node group, this part here. Very simple. There's a duplicate of the mesh itself, of the ship's mesh inside of it. And the way I did that is, well, you duplicate the mesh, and you want to go into edit mode, and you basically trim off all these little extra bits, like these little tiny things. You don't want those. You may be wondering, well, for what reason? When you put the interior effect on it, the gate interior, and then you put it over top it, you'll notice that it clips. It'll clip because it's, it's the same mesh. In order to avoid that, you go to your add modifiers, go to deform, click displace, set mid-level to 0, and then you want to set the strength to like a negative value, so that way it fits inside. And see this here? That's why we want those little tidbits cut off, is so that you don't see that like poking through the mesh itself. And it becomes visible in these little antennas and stuff. That's why you cut those antennas off. You want like the main mesh to be the only one that has it. And so, if you do it right, the interior will mostly have its clipping covered up. Right here you can see how the mesh kind of interferes, kind of overlaps. One of the many things I've had to do is actually edit the mesh of the glowing interior. Like this isn't part of the actual carrier mesh itself, so you can screw with its dimensions all you want. But originally this part here was way back here, so during hyperspace you would see the interior like that, and it was really unpleasant. So I brought it forward, and it covers it up. You'd never spot those blemishes or errors, right? Another thing I wanted to mention was I have included some alternate skins in some of these. Like you can disconnect the team module and put in this mixed node for the carrier, and you'll get this one that's a bit more symmetrical, not as worn. And there's an alternate one here as well. And these are pretty easy to make as well. The team textures are really easy to make. Really what they consist of is this. Yellow means no color, green is base color, red is for stripes. And that gets converted in the node group that I've created. So, yeah. So the original mesh looked like this. Hot garbage. Absolute hot garbage. A lot of vertices and lines actually overlap for no reason. And some of it isn't even lined up. Some of it's just asymmetrical. I re-topoed the entire thing. The entire thing. Both kind of look the same visually. There'd be a few other things also going along with it. The Titan Republic mothership and a few variants of itself that I kind of kit bashed. Oh yeah, that's right. There is another thing. I've also made sure to have the bridge separate, just to have it be unique, because I made it more symmetrical. This part actually is edited onto the mesh here, original is, but then this one isn't, because I really just copy pasted it over, so most of it's symmetrical now. So we could disable this and bring up the treaty breaker. You might like know what this is when you see it. If you have played what was it? Deserts of Karak. If you've played Deserts of Karak, you'll know what this is immediately. This is like the treaty breaker, the one that deploys the orbital weapon to try and attack the Kushan before they can even leave, you know. Yeah. Pretty fun. Made the texture myself. Got as close as I could to the reference. Yeah. Should be pretty good.